Hello everyone, my name is Cheesecake and welcome back to another retrospective where we explore your favourite childhood games and my favourite childhood games together. First of all, just wanted to say really quickly, if you're a new subscriber, thank you so much. I was asking for 100 subs in my last video and now I'm pretty much at 200, so I love you, I appreciate you, thank you. Anyway, open season.
Boog. Boog. Have you seen Dinkelman? Come on, go get him.
We start off in somewhat of a fever dream first level, in which our protagonist Boog is chasing down his stuffed teddy, Mr. Dinkelman. It suffices simply as a tutorial with nothing more than some movement basics and some coin collecting. There's some cute attention to detail here with Mr. Dinkelman's backpack straps and the pull string on his front. I really do remember this level to be significantly longer in my head, presumably because it's so striking and attention grabbing as you're first booting up the game. In reality though, it's merely about a minute long, but very memorable indeed. The game, in a nutshell, is just following along the main beats of the movie's storyline, with a mixture of minigame style levels with some light stealth and combat later on. We start with Boog and Beth in her house, learning that we can use the camera to nod and shake our head, which is soon after pretty much completely dropped as a game mechanic and never really utilised properly again.
That's my boy. Oh, you two are so cute.
I have to note here that the tutorials will abruptly stop your gameplay and explain the mechanic to you in actually quite a lot of detail. The con of this is that it starts to feel like assigned reading material, where you're always being interrupted instead of something being taught to you by showing you. The pro to this is that as a child, this is one of the only games that I think I mostly got a handle of throughout the gaming experience and could complete a lot of levels because the instructions were so explicit and clear. Anyway, we briefly explore Boog's garage before joining Beth to start a movement style minigame in which we lean over her car to collect coins. There's lots of these types of minigames until we get to the wild, spoiler alert. And with peace and love, they do feel a bit like padding, but I understand we need a narrative to push us along and the minigames are fine in execution, so it's nothing too offensive. We follow Beth into town in which we find Elliot and we untie him from the front of Shaw's car. Shaw? That doesn't sound right with an Australian accent, it sounds like I'm in agreement with you. Shaw? Should I say Shaw? Anyway. The character models are quite cute here, but Elliot does look fucking insane with those dilated pupils. I know he's tied to the hood of a car, but fuck, that guy is strung out.
Once again, following the beats of the movie, Boog is back at home when he is convinced by Elliot to lean into his drug addiction and to go scavenge a closed store nearby.
I will always love the part of the movie and the game now where Elliot's throwing the bunnies at the door. Such a stupid visual. I think the bunny's faces really adds another element to it as well. It just looks so dumb.
After some convincing from Elliot, they both head to the local Punimart to eat the whole store. This story beat works better in the movie, and even then it feels a little contrived. Here in this game, the story feels like it's moving in very random directions with not much purpose or sense, and I think I know why, which I'll be elaborating on later when we get to the main part of the game. You can briefly wander around the outside of the Punimart as Boog, and holy fuck, this place is creepy. For all the praise I've given Far Far Away in Shrek and Rivet Town and Robots, this has the opposite vibes. Those places felt alive and lived in, whereas I can practically see the dev at his desk working on this husk of a town. And I don't mean that to be pejorative necessarily. I subjectively love a creepy, empty, barren town in a game, which is why I love the coin game, which is almost a parody of unfinished PS2 games. There's something so effective about the quietness and stillness of these environments. They feel like you shouldn't be there, that you're out of bounds and Bend Round is about to pop up around the corner. But objectively speaking, as a licensed game parents are spending their money on, yeah, mama, this is garbage.
You know how people love like unintentional ASMR in movies and video games and whatever? When Boog is eating the Wuhu bars in the Punimart, that sound is amazing. I don't know what Foley artist did that, but that sound is like crack to me. It's like such like a soft, sort of dense, wet crunch, but it just sounds so good.
Wuhu indeed.
Okay, so Boog and Elliot get BUSTD busted and they get shot in the ass and transported into the wild where it's open season. And Boog has to find his way back home to Beth without being shot by the hunters in the meantime. It's basically the plot of Madagascar but more Americanized and less inspired. Still a great movie though, I can't lie. This is where the game opens up into what I believe to be the intended meat of the game, the woods. It's where we graduate past the little minigames and enter into some proper gameplay mechanics. The problem is though, it does feel a little like we, as in the player and the developers, are just biding our time until we reach like the real point of the game. And where I think it parallels Madagascar in that sense, in which Madagascar as a level and environment opens up the scope of the game. The difference is that the levels leading up to Madagascar actually feel worthwhile and fleshed out. Okay, so in a nutshell, the main point of the woods is that we're either avoiding the hunters or we're avoiding Shah, and there's lots of different gameplay mechanics to help us achieve that. This formula is occasionally split up with some time trial-esque missions or more movement puzzles. To elaborate, the combat in this game involves catapulting things or animals at the hunters, such as skunks which deploy and stun/kill the hunters. The funny thing is that as Boog, you can also catapult Elliot, which is a highlight I think for many players out there.
Like, instead of Boog just like calmly putting Elliot down on the ground, he kind of just piffs him around the whole map. And you can like throw him off cliffs and you can throw him into lakes and you can smack him into walls, and it's kind of really funny.
Then as Boog, you can use stealth, and I use that term quite liberally, to sneak up on the hunters from behind and then perform somewhat of a quick time challenge to stun them and move past them.
Boog's stealth disguise, where he just T-poses with some leaves wrapped around him, borderline lazy gameplay, but luckily it's so hilarious that it makes up for it anyway.
Of course, because this is pretty much the rest of the whole game. There's levels to the gameplay. One example is that you get to control Elliot sometimes, and instead of scaring the hunters, he makes them chase after him to lure them into the traps. To split up the main gameplay element of spooking the hunters, there's also two other mission types. They're the time trial based ones like Elliot's race or the minecart level, or occasional shooting missions where you're the animals shooting the hunters with like the porcupine out of the bra. These are good and fun delineations from the monotony of the stealth quick times. I especially enjoy the minecart type levels.
I am a sucker for a roller coaster level. I just love them. I love things emulating roller coasters. I love roller coasters. I love being on them. I love seeing them happen. So sign me up.
Okay, so the catch with this game is, yes, it's super fun, I like all of the elements and they fit really well together. However, there is a threshold where this game reaches its peak, and unfortunately it's quite early. There's only so many stealth or quick time events you can handle before you start to feel like this game is really running out of steam. But overall, I don't want to detract from the fact that this game has a really strong foundation. The graphics are pretty solid, the music is always on theme, it's a faithful retelling of the movie sequences as well. The gameplay here is genuinely fun and comes with a lot of detail. The only problem is that there's just not enough of it to pull us through a 3-hour experience. And yet, this is one of my favourites when I was a kid. It felt easy enough that I could properly sink my teeth into it, and I think the open world feeling of the woods, though it is technically linear, is really well executed and made the environment fun to explore. I want to emphasise this is a fun game despite its flaws.
Whenever I type these games that I used to play into YouTube, I'm mainly met with gameplay videos from adult men who have never played these games before in their lives, especially not when they were younger. I found this video that was ranking pretty much all the games that I've covered on my channel, plus a bunch more that I intend to cover, on like a tier ranking from S tier to F tier. He said a couple things in the video along the lines of this.
Yeah, nothing really makes sense. The mechanics are weird and it just feels lazy. Like, this is a cash grab. So here's the thing about this game. They forgot to make it a game.
Now, don't get me wrong, I think this video is in good fun. I think the video is actually quite entertaining and I did enjoy it as a whole. But I think, yeah, from the lens of an adult who's used to AAA games, like if you've just come off the coattails of Red Dead Redemption, yeah, these games suck. They're really bad. You could go into any one of these games, and unless you're playing like The Incredibles on PS2, yes, you're going to find that the gameplay is incredibly repetitive and stale. There's not going to be much depth. You're going to be doing the same thing over and over, level after level. But I feel like these videos are just ultimately missing the perspective of a kid who, in my instance, I had no other choice than to play these games. I didn't know what Ratchet & Clank was. I didn't have access to GTA until GTA 5 came out. But the thing is, when I was forced to play these games for tens of hours sometimes, I would find things in them that you're not going to be able to find when you just skim through these games in like a half an hour long period. I think of these games fondly now because that little girl in me used to wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. every single day before school just to rush out to my PS2 and get as much gaming time as physically possible. I just feel like I have a lot more to say about these games. I feel like my take is a little bit more nuanced. As I've hit more views and subs now than I ever have before, I find it important to proclaim a sort of mission statement with my YouTube channel. Some comments that I got recently really wrapped it up for me nicely. Like, I find that you can always tell the difference between someone who grew up with parents who knew what games to get their kid and the parents that got their kids the robots game. As well as, finally, a channel that makes videos on the random games my brother made me play while he'd play GTA 4. So if you're like me and these games actually mean a lot to you, please stick around because I'll absolutely be doing a fuck ton more in the future. So I'd really recommend subscribing if you enjoy this type of content. But for the meantime, thank you so much. Bye.